and we are delighted now to be joined by a couple of good friends. First of all, Dave Albery, the Executive Director of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. Good morning, Dave.
Mr. Scott.
Good to see you. And Marshall Labadie, who is the Development Services Director of West Bloomfield Township. Marshall, morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me
Okay.
here. This is great.
Good to see you. Let me turn your microphone up just a little bit. There we go, and there we go. Hold on a second, guys. Okay. Very sorry about that. I obviously hit the wrong button, so I apologize. Okay, we're fine now. Forgive me. There's a lot of buttons over here, Marshall.
I know you're doing both duties today.
We're
DJ and the soundboard.
We're trying to make it all happen. You know, this thing isn't an easy project either. I mean, this has been a project. I was talking to Larry Brown on the phone, who we'll talk to here in person in a little bit, but he said this has been under consideration and planning has been going on for 20 years.
At least 20 years. This is the Boulevard is part of the Northwestern Connector projects, and as we've jumped into the history of this over the years, we've come to find out that this started back in the 50s, trying to procure right-of-way for an access to basically M59 that was supposed to go diagonal across the township. And as a kid here in town, I remember seeing little bits and discussions and stories about the Northwestern, and then it kind of, I think a lot of residents didn't want to see that connection, so it stopped and went back into the planning stages for another 20 years, and as Larry had indicated, about 25 years ago, started to take shape, get legs, some federal funding, some more engineering studies, and it came into this 3 or 4 phase Northwestern Connector project. And again, that the main piece of that, or the main component, is the Orchard Lake Boulevard, and I'm glad to see it's done. I know that my entire 13, 14 years here with the township has been spent working on this as well, and getting the final pieces and final contracts and tweaking the original project to fit right in here, and tie it in with the Maple Road widening. And I'm very pleased to see what's here, and it really is the hard work of past and current board members, the road commission, and of course the utmost of patience by our business community as we have done this over the last few years.
Well, the business community certainly, over the short term, was inconvenienced quite a bit.
Yes.
But I imagine, and I'm sure talked to many people in the business community, I'm sure that when looking at it logically, most of them realize the long-term benefit of this project would far surpass any short-term inconvenience.
Well, yes, and I hope that continues to be the case. And again, as what we see today, I know we're a little bit covered with snow. I'm glad to see the street lights are up so everyone can really get a good idea as you come up from the roundabout at 14 in Orchard Lake. You'll see the street lights coming in. Pretty soon we'll have banners up on those arms. The Township Board, again, is very supportive. We're going to move forward with the streetscape project that we're going to get into the design phases of and begin to put that in place next year. That won't involve any shutting down of any roads, so businesses don't have to be worried about. Basically is to beautify the corridor. Now that the hard part of it is over as far as getting the road in and the signals, now it's time to put in the softer elements, the landscaping, the Welcome to West Bloomfield sign, and really let that corridor really take its final shape. And again, as we talked about the businesses, we really hope that this is an attraction point, as we are a regional hub. This is a county highway, and really solidify our place in the region, and welcome everybody back to West Bloomfield to see what we have to offer.
We're broadcasting live and recording this for Civic Center TV, so you may be watching this in the coming days when we're recording it. But we're broadcasting live as we are doing this on 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM. If you're tuning in, we're live at Crispelli's. We're going to be here throughout the morning through the ribbon cutting at 11:30, and we invite you to come on by and be a part of it. We got a cup of coffee and some sweets for you. If you want to enjoy that with us, you're more than welcome, and we'd like to hear your thoughts about this project as well. Marshall Labadie is with us, Development Services Director of West Bloomfield Township. Dave Albery, I'll let you get a word in here in a minute. Dave Albery is the Executive Director of the Cable Commission. And Marshall, I have so many questions, but I do want to say hi to Dave. And Dave, you like I are a longtime resident of this community.
Correct.
Just from a consumer standpoint, what are your thoughts about the need for this and what you see so far?
Well, I can't wait to see it. I haven't driven it. in evening rush hour yet, since it's been operational for a couple weeks,
Right.
3 weeks.
Correct.
So I've got to come down sometime and see how the traffic flows north from the roundabout up to Maple, because this mile has always been a mess during rush hour, and I'm interested to see what effect this has. But I think we know, all of us who've lived around here for a long time, of the efficiency of this type of boulevard on Woodward and on Telegraph. So I can't imagine it's anything but efficient. This is a great way, and you've got lots of opportunities as you go north or south to do the flip around and then turn around and go the other way and get into where you need to go. And the design to me looks, I don't know how much Marshall had to do with this, but the design is fantastic, and gives you, for instance, the opportunity as you come north to take to move over and get a left and go into onto Powers Road and get into the post office and the other businesses that are back there. So I think it's going to be great. I have a question for Marshall, if I could.
Sure.
This may be out of order, Dave, and I don't know what you.
No.
planned.
It's all is good.
Well,
We got plenty of
Marshall,
time.
when we watch township board meetings and talk about road projects, we hear about tri-party funding. Is this a tri-party funded project?
It certainly is. That covered a lion's share of it for us.
Okay, and the tri-parties are Road Commission of Oakland County, the township itself, and state or federal government.
Oakland County.
Okay.
The Oakland County the Board of Commissioners, so the
Okay.
general operations of
The
the county.
the county road commission, and the local community. No
Yep.
federal or state money.
We were able to procure some large sums of federal money,
Okay.
and
So it's really not tri-party, it's quadra-party.
it's a quadra-party. So the tri-party, we were able to get a good chunk of money in there. I don't know how detailed everybody wants to know the exact dollar amounts, but the tri-party really poured in probably about $1 million. We had some earmarked federal dollars. If you remember, Representative Nolenberg was able to procure those a while ago, along with the hard work of the Road Commission. I have to, again, the Road Commission has been a great partner moving through this. It was a difficult process to get started. And then right before we were able to get started, we were able to procure some more federal dollars, really to take the hit off of the general fund here at the township, which is good news because that frees up those dollars for the beautification of the corridor,
Next
may
year,
which may have not been available. And it does take some of the hit off of the general fund, so we can continue to provide our great public services to the community, especially police and fire. So being able to get those federal dollars and the participation with the Road Commission, and again, always the support of the Township Board has been great, not only on this project, but to me to make our part of this go smoothly. It's been a long process, though.
We don't pay for this ourselves, Marshall. So are we competing with other communities, other regions, other states to get those dollars to build what we built here?
A little bit, yes. And some component is, again, the length of time that this project's been in the hopper. There's been little tiny amounts of money over the years put in, earmarked, set-asides, and at the very end, there was a little bit of competition for the last little bit of federal money. I'm glad that they found that we were a willing recipient. And again, I like to thank the administration at the Road Commission, the road commissioners, and again, the Township Board, really over the last about a year and a half, solidifying our relationship to get those dollars to come in. Because I know it was difficult at the beginning to get this final product. But at the end, the relationship really worked out well.
Well, you talk about relationships. I think Township Supervisor Steve Kaplan in a recent meeting referred to you as the Road Commission's best friend, that you've developed relationships with the Road Commission that have really made this project go smoothly because you have worked together and cooperated so well. That's a compliment.
Well, that's a nice compliment. I appreciate getting that compliment in public because it has been a labor of love getting this to happen. And again, the Road Commission has been good to us, and over the last few years, kind of pulling the last little pieces. Their design team, Jeff O'Brien working with OHM, and Tom Blust. Those gentlemen will be here this afternoon. That design team component that really did the real hard engineering on all of it, and then it really worked. It really pulled all those pieces together.
So we know what the funding is. When it comes to actually designing and constructing, the Road Commission is running that show. Am I correct?
Correct. They did the design and construction oversight, and then we per our contract, there's a big established agreement and contract between us and the road commission for which if there's any questions or conflicts, they do pull us in to resolve how do we want that to look in the final selections. And then especially with the street lights, you'll see those are up. I'm glad those come up over the last few days. That was us working with DTE Community Lighting and the Road Commission allowing us to put our fingerprints on that design, the pole designs, the colors, and then eventually we'll get some banners up like you see now, those green ones. We're going to continue those throughout. And that's really kind of the start of that streetscape component where we're going to start to see that sense of place. We've arrived. You've come to West Bloomfield. Oh, here I am. Where do I go? Here are all these new businesses. We're seeing a lot of influx of reinvestment back into this commercial corridor. That's amazing. We want to continue to facilitate that, and
Do we have street lighting, significant street lighting like we have here now, anywhere else in our township?
You see a little bit at the roundabout. You kind of get a sense of that as you come into it. And that was the first phase of this two-phase project, was to get the roundabout, or what we call the triangle project, in place. You see that there. Otherwise, you'll see a little bit at the roundabouts, but those are a little bit of the older style lighting. What we're having here is kind of this new age, I don't want to say new age, but LED lighting concepts, the fluted poles, kind of this decorative street lighting that you're going to see in here that will, again, creates the safety issues and then accessibility and ease of use for pedestrians. And again, we're trying to get pedestrians to reuse this corridor and, again, to start getting to our business.
Well, that'll be a big challenge. I'll ask you about that in a minute, but let's come back to the lighting. The lighting is helpful. I mean, it's certainly nice when you're driving at night and you have a lit highway, no question about it. But I imagine it's as important from an aesthetic standpoint, contributing to the look of this boulevard, as it is from a practical standpoint to make it safer to drive.
It is. Again, it's going to be, that was some of our concern for a while when we did last year. We did the Maple Orchard Lake intersection. Again, that was, again, a negotiation and a relationship-building exercise between us and the Road Commission to move away from a roundabout because we found that was going to affect our corner businesses and go to this new design that the township undertook. But, again, for a while there was no lights, and it was we were getting a lot of calls. Why aren't the lights turned on? We worked through DTE to get the meter turned on. But, again, it was dark for a little while. So when you put the lights in, you create that destination, that sense of place, that it's a purposed corridor for business and community, and that's really what we're going for.
What are you going to do with the islands in the middle? We have snow on them now. Will there be special landscaping or anything unique done with them?
Yes, and that's part of our streetscaping project. We're going to be awarding that contract here at the next township board meeting and really start jumping into that element. So initially what everyone will see is you'll see sod laid in there in the spring because they haven't finished all the restoration as part of this project. So once the sod goes in, we'll put in some irrigation, start getting that going, and then working with the landscape architect is to beginning to look at purposed landscaping that doesn't distract visibility or take away from visibility to the corridor, but it begins to beautify some trees, some perennial areas, the plantings. We want to put up some community signage locations. So when I know Levine's coming in later for the Chamber of Commerce, if there's a Chamber of Commerce event, there will be a place so they could put signage through that corridor to welcome people in saying, what is it, the Crub Crawl or whatever that we have,
Sure.
or the art fair. There'll be a place where we could say this is where we're at.
You mean that banner that we've had across Orchard Lake Road that gets ripped down when it's windy, never really worked very well? So we're going to have something better than that?
That's what I'm hoping for, and that's really what was in the RFP that we put out is to find places where we could put in signage in the right spot. We want to put in art. Really, we do. With this is a big piece. We want to put in some sculpture, some artwork.
You know, you've had a chance to play around with this a little bit, really, with the entrance that we have over at Town Hall. The Civic Center entrance has some of these same elements. It's a boulevard. It's got some nice banners. Is that, I mean, I know this is much bigger, but kind of a sense of what you're doing here, right?
Again, if we had the Town Center District study, we went through that exercise for a long period of time as part of or in concert with the design of this boulevard. And when we had that firm in helping ourselves, the Township Board, the Planning Commission, we had that subcommittee working, we looked at what elements of this community do we want to put on display. What is West Bloomfield? What do we look like as far as it goes to colors, textures, plant material, lighting? And it really does draw from places like the world's most popular library that we have here in town that's always busy. What parts of that do we like? And the naturalistic, the environmental protection components that we have and embrace here, how do we put that into our final design? And that's all incorporated in that study, and that's what we're going to take from that and put into that boulevard.
Dave Albery, I thought this was just a road. Clearly, there's so much more. Anytime I talk to anyone on the radio or just in my business dealings, and I start asking them about what they do, and I'm sure you gentlemen both find the same thing fascinating. It's like, wow, there is just so much that goes into making all this happen, planning it, and executing it. It's not just the road goes here, we put some concrete down, and we'll lay some sod and put some lights up. I mean, there's so much more, Dave.
Look, you've heard for a long time West Bloomfield doesn't have a downtown. Just look around.
Yeah, it's coming.
We may be having a downtown here.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk today about...
And it's not an intersection as much as a 1 mile area between 14 and Maple along this boulevard now.
Well, and that's why we're here today, because I think this represents the beginning of a fundamentally new aspect to our community. And I'm really excited about it. I want to learn why, what it is, how we use it, and Dave Albery, while you're still here, how we as community media partners can get involved. This boulevard is great for, I mean, maybe I'm getting the cart ahead of the horse, and I know it's a state highway, and I don't want to inconvenience people any more than they already have been over the last couple of years, but you got a boulevard. Maybe this is the kind of place where we could hold a parade at some point, where there could be activities. You've got some additional green space that happen that I'm looking at right now out of Crispelli's here, that as you got rid of that curve into Powers Road, I don't know if this is who owns that property, but there are additional green spaces and open spaces along here where certainly it's going to be easier to hold events in the future.
Yeah, I think, again, this is our sense of place. It's, again, we're a regional destination that really didn't have a look and feel to it to continue that draw over time. So this is our transformation, if you will, from West Bloomfield being the traditional suburban, community, where now we have this corridor, this sense of a downtown, as Dave was indicated, and that we spent a lot of time figuring out what that looks like. Can we have a downtown? I think originally back in the early 2000s, we spent time saying, okay, we're going to be, not to name drop other communities when we're talking about ourselves today and the great things about West Bloomfield, but we thought, we could be the next Birmingham kind of concept, and everything will be up at the street. We'll have secondary road networks. But what we failed to look at that time is all the existing infrastructure we have that isn't going anywhere. We have very nice commercial buildings set back a little bit, so then we had to think about, we're not really going to have that kind of downtown. We don't have those historic structures that kind of mark that entryway into the community. We have a corridor. How do we make that corridor as we transform more over time when we get these new places? We have the new Ferrari dealership that's coming in. It's going to be a magnificent looking building. I know Grand Saqua spent some money converting the old Audette Cadillac spot, and there's going to be some more development there. When those pieces come in and we look at this redevelopment, how do we get that to match and create a sense of place that isn't what you think is your traditional downtown, but a corridor? And I agree. I think we can have community events and things of that nature. And we have the art fair here, which has been a great partner with us. And I think that'll continue to be a draw for us, and how we build on that with the development of the corridor.
Dave Albery, we're so challenged in West Bloomfield. Not only do we have a real lack of talent and leadership, all of our leaders are very poor communicators. They're just terrible.
Yeah.
Marshall, it's just great to hear you listen to you talk, because you talk about this so well, and you're a good guy, and I know you really care, and I know you work hard, and we all really appreciate everything you're doing for the township, and you can speak to it so well. I appreciate you being here with us and getting up early this morning and talking about it. Obviously, you're very excited. You're seeing something that you've been working on for a long time. Hang on for just a minute. I want to take a quick break. We'll grab a quick cup of coffee. We're going to be here. I I'm really glad we did this, Dave Albery, because this is fascinating to me. I hope people listening and watching are enjoying it. I'm Dave Scott, General Manager of WBLD and Civic Center TV. We have Dave Albery, the Executive Director of the Cable Communications Commission, and a really fine broadcaster, so I'm glad you're here. And Marshall Labadie. He is the Development Services Director of West Bloomfield Township, and I think safe to say really the point administration person at the township handling this project over several years. We're going to take a quick break. We will be back. It's about 13 degrees outside. Sun is shining. Roads are still snowy. West Bloomfield schools are closed. We're here today at Crispelli's. We invite you to come by. We'll give you a cup of coffee and something sweet to eat. You can stop by and be a part of our broadcast this morning. Ribbon cutting is at 11:30. More coming up right here on 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM. You're watching Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Civic Center TV is your home for everything Greater West Bloomfield. Here you can tune into community programming such as our weekly news magazine show, The Splash, as well as coverage of local events and meetings in Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, and West Bloomfield. You can also watch all of your local programming online anytime at civiccentertv.com. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
You're watching Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. Thank you, Tyler Keefe, the amazing program director at WBLD, doing a great job with the radio station and working real hard this morning here. Thank you to Tyler Keefe. Thank you to John Atwater, our new general manager of Civic Center TV, hard at work this morning, making all this happen behind the scenes. Larry Nyland, even though his car broke down yesterday in the snow and he couldn't find his cell phone, he is here helping out this morning and enduring all of that. Losing your cell phone in your car and dealing with 9 inches of snow is not an easy thing to deal with, and he is still here helping out. Thanks to our amazing team, Janine back at the studio, and you for tuning in on this very special day in West Bloomfield. We're here on 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM, broadcasting live at Crispelli's, the ribbon cutting for the Orchard Lake Boulevard. It's still not rolling off the tongue yet. It's so exciting. I can't say Orchard Lake Road anymore as I refer to south of 15 Mile. It's Orchard Lake Boulevard. We'll find out how that all works as we continue our conversation with Marshall Labadie. He's a Development Services Director of West Bloomfield Township, and also lending a hand, my good friend and partner in media crime, Dave Albery, the Executive Director of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. Marshall, during the break, we were talking a little bit about the history of Northwestern Highway. Why does that very useful road end at Orchard Lake Boulevard?
Well, Northwestern Highway, as we were, again, discussing offline, originally, and this back in the 50s when it started, Northwestern Connector was supposed to run diagonal across the township and basically get to M59. And if you look at a plat map or a parcel map of the township, you'll see places throughout the township where easements were started to be procured, but no longer existed. So they couldn't get the connection points. And I was telling you a story, too, that at one point in time, we came across an article, and I believe it was Ray Holland was the old township supervisor at the time, and as the story the legend, he arrived for a news story interview or photo where he was on horseback and said, it'll be the day before Northwestern Connector cuts through West Bloomfield Township and divides this township along a road. And that pretty much kind of solidified the change of thinking and planning. So it had to rethink how we did it.
Forgive me for interrupting. That was profound, though, because maybe that continued to help West Bloomfield maintain its position as a primarily residential community and not see a lot of business development happen, which likely would have happened if they continued to extend Northwestern Highway through an area now that is almost exclusively residential.
Mm-hmm. Well, premier residential.
Right, and let me follow up on that a little bit.
Thank you, Dave Albery.
You're welcome. Since Northwestern now stops at the Orchard Lake Boulevard and doesn't go any further in a northwesterly direction, the flow is now, and has been since that was determined, the flow is Northwestern to Orchard Lake north and then west on Maple.
Correct.
The west flow that would have occurred there is now occurring with Maple. So can
Correct.
you give us an update on where we are on all of Maple construction, all the way perhaps to Haggerty or even M5? Is that all completed? Is it half done? What is it?
Almost. One more mile. One more mile, everybody, and Maple Road will
All
be
right.
widened completely.
Countdown.
Yeah,
Countdown.
right. So we have the Drake to Halstead, basically, which is the front of the hospital, road frontage in front of the JCC and Henry Ford Hospital. Those are our last mile to complete, and it should be the simplest mile for us as well, because most of the development is newer in age. So we have what we call dedicated road right-of-way, so we have more space to complete that. But if you have come in from Haggerty, again, you see that Haggerty-Maple Road intersection's repaved. We completed the Minnow Pond stream, or Minnow Pond drain crossing, which is the upper parts of the Pebble Creek. So we see the 3 lanes through there. And then all the way to outside of that 1 mile between Drake and Halstead, all the way out to Maple and Orchard Lake. Is all widened, repaved. It's actually a very nice rideable surface. And again, with that last mile, this is going to be a great component, kind of the backbone of traffic, if you will, or traffic routes through West Bloomfield. So we have an opportunity, again, with the boulevard and the landscaping. This is our sense of place, our destination. You've arrived. This is West Bloomfield, our regional place. So you could stop, do your shopping, get some food, and then go down to Maple Road, through Maple Road to go home, either here in West Bloomfield, or if you're passing through, please stop, visit our any of our local businesses, which we pride ourselves on. And
leave some of your money here, please.
Please. That would be nice and really would help our business community that, again, has stomached some of this pain over the last couple of years. And they would be glad to welcome you into their businesses. And, again, the pride here is the local business component that we pride ourselves on here in West Bloomfield. And you said residential community, premier residential community. That's
very much so.
Let's
very
bring
much
it up
so.
a little bit. And again, this is West Bloomfield.
Marshall, you mentioned pedestrians. This I've never really thought of this corridor or our community in general, our major thoroughfares in this community, as being pedestrian-centric. We, I think, historically have been a community that drives from point A to point B. We don't have a highly compressed downtown like the communities that have had these downtowns like Birmingham and Farmington and Plymouth. So let's talk. We only got a couple more minutes. Larry Brown is standing by, and I want to get to him. But talk a little bit about what you've done to try to make this a little more pedestrian-friendly.
Yeah, so what you'll notice as you come through here, West Bloomfield has a safety path network. And again, this is another component of reshaping our environment here in West Bloomfield when the voters passed the safety path millage back in 2005, which is to begin to draw those connections between all of the gaps in our pathways. We don't consider them sidewalks. We consider them joint use, non-motorized pathways.
Are you the development services director or the marketing director of West Bloomfield?
A little bit of both. If we're all doing our jobs in West Bloomfield correctly, we're always marketing it because we want to have people to stay and keep here, retain in West Bloomfield. So it's a labor of love. We've gone through. It's been a lot of hard work to get to this point. But the pedestrian component, you'll see new 8-foot pathways all the way down the corridor. Those will begin to connect into our other main road safety paths, which we are actively maintaining and improving. Some of them are older than others, and we're doing what we can with limited dollars to make those final connections, as well as to rehabilitate our existing pathways. So when this is done, we have pedestrian-activated crossings that are safe. It's going to just take a little bit of time. And again, going back to, not to harp on our streetscaping, but when the streetscape components are done, it'll be a little bit more pedestrian-friendly because it'll you'll have more visual breaks, and it'll feel a little bit safer, more welcoming for the pedestrian.
It's been a little scary historically, navigating your way. I feel better for the joggers because they're moving quicker, but it has been a little scary. I mean, you got cars going all over the place, and we had a very unorthodox approach to these, roadways and then the ancillary roadways, and it just kind of grew up without a lot of planning. No inference to anyone who was here when it was all being built, but that's why we fixed it, and I think it's going to be a really welcome development and change making this more pedestrian friendly. I congratulate you.
And it will be pedestrian friendly. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Originally, again, this was an auto-centric planned community. That was the way to do it back in the the mid to late 70s through the 80s, through our big boom time here in West Bloomfield, was cars. And then we began to rethink. And then you see some of our commercial corridor. We find that those developments started in the late 60s. Some of those are aged facilities, and you're starting to see that reinvestment, new facades or complete demo rebuilds. So the community is reshaping itself. The Town Center District, which the past Township Board, I know Larry's going to come speak with us, and the efforts that he put in, along with other trustees and former boards and members. And the current board moving forward is carrying that torch, that commitment to making this a better place, especially this corridor. And if there is one thing that this community has come together on quite well, I thought, is this corridor. It's been, as I said, a labor of love, a lot of hard work, a lot of headaches, a lot of meetings, a lot of belly aching, a lot of arm twisting. I don't do the arm twisting, but that's been done to make things like this happen, and we're excited that it's finally here.
Well, we're excited as well. Thank you for all of your efforts, Marshall. Thank you for getting up early and joining us this morning at 8:30.
Absolutely.
Good to
Love
be
it.
with you. You're more than welcome to stay, but I know you might have some other obligations this morning as you get ready for the ribbon cutting, but stick around, have a cup of coffee, and if you want to spend some more time with us, you are welcome. Dave Albery, thank you so much. You are also welcome to stay. We have coming up Larry Brown. He is a former West Bloomfield Township trustee. He'll be with us in a moment. Suzanne Levine, the executive director of the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, joins us at 9:45. We'll talk about the impact of this roadway on businesses along the route. Steve Kaplan, our current West Bloomfield Township supervisor, will be here at 10:30. Debbie Binder, who is our clerk, and Terry Weingarten, our treasurer. And I'm sure we'll have other folks stopping by and offering their comments. 11:30, the ribbon cutting. We'll catch that live here on the radio. And we cleared an area out here. I think we're going to be just fine. It's a little cold, but come on by and enjoy it. And we have coffee. We have some sweets. I really want to thank the people here at Crispelli's. They accommodated our every request. They have been so fine. And I talked to them, and Eric, the manager here, just to give you a sense, Marshall and you, Larry, they are so fired up about being right in the heart of this new Orchard Lake Boulevard. I think we're going to see that reverberate through all the businesses up and down this corridor. And the folks that are here now are just, they're geeked. They're really excited about the impact this is going to have on their businesses. I think it's going to have them invest more in their businesses here and then create new opportunities for other people that aren't even here. Marshall, thank you very much.